Hey, everybody. We're going to get right into the episode today, but one quick note or announcement, I guess. We recorded this episode right after the Ohio Deer and Turkey Expo, but we decided to release it after the episode that we recorded with backcountry hunters and anglers. So you'll hear us talk about, just being at the Ohio Deer and Turkey Expo and wanting to have BHA on the show. But because of the timing of some of the AEP developments and things, we wanted to release the episode with backcountry hunters and anglers first. And so just wanted to give you a heads up in case some of the stuff we're talking about, you're like, wait a minute, they already talked to BHA. So that's why we changed the order. We recorded this one before we recorded the episode with BHA, but decided to release that episode first. So that's it. With that, we're going to get into the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Ohio Huntsman podcast with your hosts, Jason, Jacob, and Jeff. And on this week's show, it's just Jacob and I. So we figured we would talk. Jacob and I are the only ones that have kids at this point. So we figured we would talk about kids and hunting and kind of how our perception of hunting and public lands and things have changed now that we have kids and sort of that generational thing. So if you have kids, want to have kids, this might be interesting to you. Hopefully it is. Before we get into that, though, I want to talk about our sponsor for the show. Sponsor of Ohio Huntsman is Monster Whitetail Grub. Monster Whitetail Grub is a Ohio-based deer feed company. And what that means is they are an Ohio company that sources their product from Ohio, even down to the packaging. They try to get the packaging from local Ohio sources. So by supporting them, you're supporting the Ohio economy, and it's just a good product. It's a high-protein mineral deer feed, so it's not just a bag of flavored corn. It's got protein, it's got mineral. We got another sample the other day of their peanut flavored product and opened the lid, and it's got whole in-shell peanuts in it. So it's not just peanut flavoring. It may have some peanut flavoring in it, but it's got whole peanuts in it. And I'm not saying that there aren't other companies that do that, but I've not seen them. And one of the nice thing about that sort of bigger chunk, sort of a more coarse feed, is it slows the deer down from just sitting there chowing through it, right? They've got to kind of chew on it a little bit. And so we've been really happy with the product, and we're happy that they're a sponsor of the show. So if you're looking for feed, check out Monster Whitetail Grub. There'll be links in the show notes for them, and give them a shout and try their stuff. So with that, any updates, Jake?
No.
We should probably talk a little bit about Jeff's not here. He was with us yesterday, but we should probably talk a little bit about the Ohio Deer and Turkey Expo, or the newly renamed Ohio Outdoor Life Field and Stream Deer Turkey Expo thing. Name a mile long.
Right.
So we were up there yesterday. This is we're recording this on Sunday, so we were up there yesterday. Just want to thank everybody that we talked to, for starters, and just said hey to a lot of people. And if you were there and we missed you, we're sorry. But I don't know if you had anything interesting that you saw, chime in. I'm excited. We made contact with a handful of people to sort of have them on the show. We've got, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, Davey Stuckey or something, lined up, or we're working on getting him lined up to come on. He shot a big giant buck in Ohio this year.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to talking to him. Handful of other companies, backcountry hunters and anglers, things like that.
With them, trying to get them
we're going to work on having them on the show. So a lot of exciting things coming up. A lot of cool stuff there. A lot of. They had the taxidermy mounts on display there, and a lot of just giant deer there. So that was good to see. That was I don't know, Jake, have you ever been there? That was my first time.
Nope. Nope, first time. Yeah, first time at that expo. I've been to other expos, but never in the hunting space. So it was definitely a experience. It was different. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool things, a lot of cool people to talk to.
Yeah,
So
yeah, a lot of people there, a lot of good companies. So it was good. I enjoyed it. I was glad we made the trip. So, all right. Well, with that, I think we'll get into our topic today. So, as we mentioned, you and I both have kids. Jeff does not have kids yet. And having kids changes things, changes your life. If you have kids, you know that. If you don't have kids, you'll find out if you plan to have kids. Um, and it just, I don't know. For me, it changed my perspective on a lot of things. And so I thought it might be interesting to just kind of talk about how those perspectives have changed related to hunting and hunting opportunity. And you and I both have daughters. And so,
right,
what does that look like, right? Hunting can a lot of times be sort of good old boys club. And what does it look like from getting daughters into the outdoors and hunting and things like that? So I guess, chime in wherever. But, for me, I really cherish the times because, they're too young to hunt with us now. I mean, they can go out in the woods and
scare
sit
all
in a
the deer away.
blind, right, scare the deer away. But it, it has changed my perspective on the time that we spend out in the woods with our dad. Like when you're a kid, you just kind of take that for granted. But now that I have a kid of my own, I sort of really appreciate what he did for us in as far as getting us into the outdoors and taking us down there. And because it's not easy, man, right? Kids
Right,
are it's you got to remember all your stuff, which is hard enough, and then you got to remember their stuff. And do
right,
they have gloves? And deal with,
right,
you're a grown man, you can sort of tough it out, but a kid's like,
right,
I'm cold, and just the fact that he did that for the three of us and sort of put up with that, if you will. Maybe put up with that isn't the right word, but he raised three kids that all now hunt and fish, and it's I don't know, I just appreciate that more. So, funny story, a little bit of a derail side note here. It's kid related though. Our dad, Ella's grandpa, Ella's my daughter, bought her a little kid fishing pole last year, and we never really got out to fish with it. But she, in order to have some weight on the end of the line, I tied one of her rubber duck toys to the end of it, just so that she could have some weight on the end of it that wasn't going to break things if she hit the house or whatever with it, and she could practice casting. Well, this year she's definitely going to be old enough for us to go out and play around with it and try to catch some fish. But she told me that she wants to go over to Aunt Charlotte's house, and they've got a little pond over there in their development that always has ducks in it. She wants to go over there and catch ducks because we tied a duck to the end of her fishing pole.
right.
So she now thinks you catch ducks
With a fishing pole.
with a fishing pole.
That is kind of funny.
Yeah, we were talking about that, kids and hunting and whatnot, hunting and fishing, and it reminded me of that. So,
Right. But yeah, to go back, I would agree with you in terms of just the appreciation, of dad taking us out and spending time with us. I mean, even when I guess we didn't know what we wanted and we thought we didn't want to go, he would kind of coax us into going, whether we liked it
yeah,
or not. And then we'd always have fun and enjoy ourselves, and he always made it fun. So it's just definitely the appreciation because life's not easy, especially raising, like he had three kids, and our parents don't come from a mountain of money. I mean,
yep,
they work hard to give us a good life, and we're appreciative of that. But it was definitely like put the time in for the man, and then come home and take time away to spend with us. And it just now that I'm having to start doing it with my kids, it's just definitely appreciation because it's not easy. You know, you want to
Yeah.
come home and sit on the couch because you've been working all day, and you know, now I come home and my kids want to go outside, and it's like, oh gosh, do we really have to go? It's cold out, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like I just try to think back, like this is what I wanted. I wanted my kids to love to be outside.
Yeah.
So I just try to keep that in mind that it's like you asked for this. This is what you wanted. You created this monster. Now you have to go. Now you have to go tend to it. But
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
it's
I have the same thing, right? It's, you come home and like you said, it's been nasty and whatnot, and can we go outside? And your gut is like, geez. But
right. We got to
if you think about it, right, you want them to be excited to go outside. And if
right.
every time they ask to go outside, you tell them, nah, it's too cold, or it's almost dark, or then eventually they're going to lose that excitement and that passion, and certainly don't want that. So,
Right. Right.
but all right, so we talked a little bit about that, I guess. So, as the listeners know, we have I use we loosely. It's our dad and his buddies. They built a cabin down in southeastern Ohio, and that's sort of where we learned to hunt. Right, we went down there and hunted and grew up in those woods and hills, and even those memories have changed now. Last year I shot my first turkey, and we had turkey hunted before, but I shot that turkey with Dad. Dad was calling, I was on the gun, and that's going to kind of be another one of those cherished memories that I'll have. I'm a grown man at this point, but Dad called that turkey in, shoot the turkey, was able to celebrate that with Dad right there, and it's just those memories take on a different meaning, I guess, once you have kids of your own. They're a little different, a little more special, maybe.
Yeah. You
And
definitely take them for granted prior to
yeah,
having your own.
beforehand.
Yeah. It's just like another day in the woods. You know, we've been doing this for years, and we'll keep doing this for years. But kind of as you get older, and I guess as I've heard it put, like the days in the rearview mirror start to get longer and longer and potentially start getting longer than the days out the front windshield.
Yeah,
You really start to kind of think about, like, not that you and I are there, but for
right,
Dad, for our dad, his days are past. He's got less days in front of him than he's spent,
right.
in the woods. So it's special to spend that time with him, and he can be proud or sure, that he's raised 3 outdoorsmen, and, not that we're, Crocodile Dundee or anything, but we enjoy being out there. We spend time out there. We're putting a podcast out there to try and share, with other like-minded people and share
Yeah,
the outdoors with people. So it's just special to think about, like, the work that he put in and kind of what's coming of it. And it's kind of encouraging, like to keep putting that work in with our kids to try and get them to go down similar. I mean, obviously you want your kid to be their own unique person, obviously, and do what
yeah,
makes them happy, but sharing the love and passion of the outdoors and just all the lessons and things we've learned over the years. It's a lot of lessons to be learned in the woods. So
yeah. And we should really. I don't know if he had a strategy in like taking us hunting and whatnot, as far as like making sure that we grew up to enjoy it. But we should talk to him about that, because
yeah,
now it's like I want my kids to enjoy it and want to do it when they get older. And what things did he do to help try and ensure that? Because that brings up a topic like, what if as your kids get older they decide, I don't like this.
right. Hunting's not for me. I don't know.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
I guess you got to let them.
Yeah,
It is what it is, right? I mean, you,
right.
you try to encourage them as much as you can, but there's a real possibility that as much as you try, they may, and I don't know, they may get. I'd like to think that there would be at least something in the outdoors that they enjoy. Maybe they don't like deer hunting, but they really enjoy fishing. And so
Right.
maybe your focus shifts from deer hunting to fishing because that's what your kid enjoys doing. And, you want to spend time with your kids. And I, I guess I find it hard to believe that growing up being outdoors and doing things in the outdoors and participating in the outdoors, that they would grow up to be an adult and not want to do anything in the outdoors. Maybe they don't like fishing. Maybe they like hiking or camping,
Right. Right.
you know, but
Yeah,
I've
I
got
would
to
imagine.
imagine.
I would imagine, yeah. I mean, growing up, like I said, we didn't grow up, in the Rocky Mountains or anything where it was like the backwoods. I mean, we grew up in the quote unquote country, but it's the country of Northeast Ohio. I mean, we grew up on 4 acres or something. We didn't
Yeah.
even. But it's just being outside, and I do know that there was times when Dad forced us to go outside. I mean, we would be playing video games, and he would come in and say, "Okay, turn it off," and we would say, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah," and ignore him. And then he would literally come in and unplug it. I mean, it was time to go outside.
Yeah.
So and I think that there's a lot to be learned from that, or a lot to be um, enjoyed, or whatever with the outdoors. But there's a lot to, I don't know. You lose a lot when you're inside all the time. There's
Yeah.
lot to gain from being out there. So
Yeah. And that sort of brings up another thought is, we at home, right? You said we grew up on 4 acres, but we had this cabin where,
right,
I mean, for a kid, it was more or less go as far as your legs will take you sort of thing. You can go
yeah,
roam.
yeah, we
I
roam.
think it was dad was working on the cabin or whatever, and we were left to go play in the creek or
Yeah,
go up the hill and explore. And, I just remember now as an adult, right, you kind of have a better understanding of the scale and things. But I remember as a kid, like, this is just like these woods are so huge. They just never end. And, you could go forever and never find the ends of these woods.
right.
And there was, there's just something sort of special about that, having access to that. And that sort of leads into some discussion on public land and their importance and things like that. And that's why I'm excited to have BHA on. For any listeners that aren't familiar with BHA, that's Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and they're a nonprofit that they're all across the country, not just Ohio, but they are they fight to preserve and protect America's public lands, hunting access, fishing access, hiking access on public lands. There's a lot more public lands out west, but Ohio definitely has public land, and we need to protect what we've got. And they're a nonprofit organization that fights to protect and preserve that stuff. So, but I don't know. Thoughts on public lands? Has that changed for you since having kids, or
Uh,
wanting to protect those?
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of twofold. Part of it's having kids and wanting them to have the same experiences that we had, which included a lot of time on public lands down at our cabin. And then part of that's just maturing and becoming an adult and realizing that there are limits and property lines.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like down at the cabin, we could, because a lot of it's public land we were on. I mean, there was no limit. Um, once you realize that, to quote the Lion King, I guess, or whatever, as far as the sun touches, isn't yours.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's land is not cheap.
Yep.
It's, so to leave a legacy, so to speak, for your kids, it's hard to purchase that, like to give your kids whatever, hundreds of acres to hunt on, you've got to be a multimillionaire to pay for all that.
Yeah.
And that's where this, public land comes in, because everyone owns that. It's yours, it's mine, it's everybody's, and
Yep.
free to use. Other than, I mean, obviously when you're hunting, there's fees associated with tags and licenses and whatever, but you can go walk, hike, climb hills, roll down hills, whatever you want to do on public land anywhere in the country. I mean, that's
Yeah.
even outside of Ohio. So it's just, like I said, there's so much to be experienced and learned and so much beauty out in the world on public lands that I mean, it can't be bought. You can't teach that in school. You can't, it's just, you've got to
Yeah.
get out and experience it. You got to be a part of it. And,
Well,
knowing that I'm raising kids now, it's just like, I don't want that to go away. I want them to be able to experience everything I've experienced,
yeah. And just
if
to
not
expand,
more.
right. Yeah. And just to expand on your comment about, kind of growing up and maturing ourselves, I know I have, and I think I can probably speak for you as well. We've listened to other podcasts that, like the Randy Newberg podcast is really big on explaining the public lands, and it's definitely more focused on out west, but it's good to understand that stuff and the fact that the public lands aren't there by accident.
Right.
And there are, like BHA, right? There are people fighting to preserve and protect that stuff, and the United States is sort of unique in its public lands in that sense, and that it's owned by the people, and everybody has the same right to be on it and utilize the resources there. And you can go pick morels, you can go hunt spring gobblers, you can deer hunt, you can fish, whatever. It's you can hike. It's for us to use, and the fact that it's there is important for me personally. But now that I have a daughter, knowing that that stuff is there for her to go and experience the outdoors, I think that helps. From our comment earlier about if you grow up in the outdoors, even if you can't afford 100 acres, or if even you can't afford 20 acres, you've got these places where you can tap into the natural world and experience it.
Right.
And hopefully that will lead them to an adult life of enjoying and appreciating the outdoors as much as we do. And I just look forward to, I guess, those days outside with them. Right now it's a lot of out in the yard and things like that, and sometimes it can be more of a I guess we should maybe talk about their ages. My daughter's 3. You've got 2 kids.
Yeah. My daughter Lily's 3.5, and my son Zach is he's like 14 months, I think now. He's born Christmas Eve, so
Yeah.
just over 1. So I mean, they're still young. So like you said, a lot of it is, I don't want to say forced, but it's, I try to take them out and do what I can. And, I've taken like this last hunting season, I took my daughter out hunting, if you want to call it that. She went and sat in a blind with me, and that meant the world to her. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that, again, it's just kind of like I don't know, a wisdom from the old man thing, I guess, because I was talking to our dad, Lily's grandpa, and just like, every time I leave to go deer hunting, it's a big to do. She's crying, and it makes a big blow up in the house. A lot of
Right.
tension.
Drama.
Right, a lot of drama, a lot of tension between my wife and I, between my daughter and I, because I need, as soon as mom gets home, daddy runs out the door to go try and hunt, and then hunting puts a bad taste in my daughter's mouth, and that's the last thing I want. So I talked to him. I was like, how do you do this? What do you do? And that was one of those things. He was just like, take her with you. And I'm like, what do you mean take her with me? I can't take her with me. You've been around her. She doesn't close her mouth. Like, what are you talking about? And it was just one of those things. He was just like, he just looked me in the eye and was like, are you stupid? I said, missing the point here, Dad. What are we talking about? And he was just like, you're not getting it. And I said, I guess I'm not getting it. What do I need to get? And he's like, who cares? Let her go talk. Let her scare the deer away. Let her talk about whatever. Eat snacks. Eat chips. Who cares?
Yeah.
Said, is it really that important to you to go sit in a blind and shoot a deer? Or is it more important to spend time with your daughter in the outdoors,
Yeah.
making her happy? And I was like, whoa, truth bomb. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we went, we had a great time. She still talks about it to this day.
Yep.
And this next year I'll plan to take her out again. And same thing, at that time she'll be 4, but she's probably still not going to be old enough to sit still and keep quiet.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. You put the time in and make it fun, make it enjoyable, and
Yeah.
she loves, when I've harvested deer in the past, this last year or whatever, I brought them home, whatever, and she, I didn't include her in the gutting and goring part, obviously, but the deer was in the back of the truck and she touched it and was, happy that I shot it. And, it's kind of a going joke with our family. Like, whenever I ask my daughter, what do we do with deer? And she always says, we shoot them. So it's just, it's one of those things. We like anytime we're driving, she's looking for deer in the fields. And whenever we see them, she's super happy and, Dad, deer, deer. So.
Yeah. And it's, kind of to your point, at this stage, it's sort of more, or can feel more like a hassle or a pain to take them, right? Because you've got a system and
Right.
they're screwing your system up. But,
Right.
it's easy to get caught up in that, to your point. But if you take a step back, like, I don't know, it's sort of like paying your dues now so that they'll enjoy it
Right.
when they're old enough to
Participate effectively.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I mean, like,
Right.
here's a funny one for you. When I'm taking Ella out, you go out in the cold and your nose starts running. I better not forget tissues. I carry tissues in my jacket now. I've got them stashed in pockets everywhere because it never fails. We get all bundled up, go out there, walk out in the back, and as soon as we get back there, right in the backyard, and we got a little bit of woods back there, it's like, I need a tissue. And it's like, oh, geez.
All right.
So I better be remembering tissues, because otherwise it's like, I don't know. Can you use your sleeve or
Right. Right. Well, yeah. I don't know. Like,
I don't know what to tell you.
yeah.
Yeah. So
With my daughter, we've used my sleeve a couple times because I've forgotten.
Yeah.
It's like, here, just wipe it on my coat. I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, like you said, I think putting your time in now to plant the seed kind of thing, hopefully you plant the seed now and whatever, quote unquote, waste a couple hunts here and there, which, being a family guy, hunts are few and far between sometimes. And that's kind of what makes it so hard is, my wife works for a living, I work for a living. And it's just like, it's to get time. You're watching the weather, doing what us deer hunters do.
Yeah.
And the perfect cold fronts come in, and it's like, all right, honey, you're going to be home at this time, and I got to go, and I got to be in the tree by this time. It'll give me 2 hours, and it's perfect. And then my daughter's like, I want to come. And it's like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. So it's, you just have to kind of, like you said, look at it big picture. And just the satisfaction or enjoyment ahead, of spending all that time in the woods with our kids will pay off tenfold of ruining, the one quote unquote perfect hunt.
Yeah.
That the reality is, chances are, probably wouldn't have been as perfect as you thought it was going to be anyhow, because deer don't, like you've said on previous podcasts, they call it hunting, not shopping. So.
Yep.
You think it's all perfect, and then you go sit in a tree and you spend time away and upset your kids, and then you don't see a deer.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that wasn't worth it at all.
Yeah.
So.
And, I guess we should say we're by no means experts on this because we haven't lived this out, but this is just kind of what we're doing, I guess, our thoughts on how we're trying to raise our kids in the outdoors and include them, because what you're not going to do is not include them when they're little and then when they turn 16, like, all right, let's go deer hunting. And they're going to say, what are you talking about? I don't deer hunt.
Right.
I've got no interest in that. It's
Right.
cold outside. And last time I checked, there's spiders out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right. I don't know. Is there anything else? It's been a little bit of a short one, but it's just Jake and I, and we thought it might be a good opportunity to talk about kids and raising kids out in the outdoors. And
Yeah. I mean, I think it would. I guess we would be, remiss to say. I guess. I mean, we wouldn't change it for the world. We're by no means trying to say our kids are a burden or we're
yeah,
bummed out we had kids and we can't hunt as much, or that is not at all the direction we want this to go. It's more just how to balance a little bit of mentally kind of like figure out how do we raise these kids to make them have the same love and passion that we have, which we got from our dad. I mean, if it came down, to it, if I had to, I'd never hunt another day in my life if that's what it meant, for the kids.
right,
But
right.
that's not at all what we're trying to get at. I know sometimes my wife has pointed out, she listens to the podcast, we don't do a good enough job of like expressing our I don't know, our intentions. Like she's like, I know what you mean, but it didn't sound that way the way you said it.
Oh, right, yeah,
So if you sit here and she's like, you guys talk about, because you have families, you can't hunt as much. Well, people are going to think you don't love your families and that we keep you guys from hunting. And I'm like, oh gosh, I better do a better job of
yeah,
making it very, very clear that is not the case at all.
yeah. That's a good point. That's well said. Yeah, we're
It's,
by no means complaining. It's
right,
more of just coming to the realization, because like we said, our kids are still relatively young, and as a new parent, you quickly come to this realization that, or at least I think you should, that your life is no longer just about you or just about you and your wife, right?
right,
It's sort of no longer about you, and it's about them and making sure their needs are met and that they're taken care of, and that there's food on the table, and that are they're getting enough attention, and you're showing them enough love and caring for them, that they're going to grow up to be normal, successful adults.
right,
And you have to come to that realization in your hunting as well, right? Like,
right,
if you want them to grow up to hunt, then you're hunting for those sort of formative years, or at least parts of it. Like you said, those one or two hunts
right,
each season or something. It's not about you and you being successful. It's about you spending time with your kids in the outdoors to hopefully make them successful hunters someday.
right.
Or at least that's the way I see it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'd say that's very well put. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. It's putting, taking my own personal quote unquote satisfaction or success and putting it to the side in order to nurture or build up, my daughter and my son when he gets old enough. It's just, you got to put that, like you said, you put yourself aside. It's less of me, more of them.
Right.
I mean, that's just part of maturing, becoming an adult. It's when you're single, it's all about you.
Yeah.
When you get married, it's no longer just you. It's about you and your wife. And then when you make the decision or blessed, to bring children into the world, it's no longer really about you and your wife anymore. It's how do you and your wife raise this child now to be, like you said, a functioning, normal, successful member of society. And, in our case, part of that includes, hopefully, a passion and love for the outdoors because that's where we come from.
Right. Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, I think this was a good one. Hopefully, like we said, if you guys have kids or thinking about having kids, maybe, you got something out of this, or you could relate to some of this, maybe if you have any advice on if you're farther along the journey with kids on what you do to include your kids or how to ensure that they're going to enjoy the outdoors, leave us a comment, send us a note. We'd like to hear that. As always, we just really appreciate people listening. If you're enjoying the show, the biggest thing we can ask is share it. Share it with your friends, share it on your social, tag us. That all that helps getting the word out. That's like we've said before, we want to be a source for good information for Ohio's hunters, and getting that information out is sort of our biggest struggle right now. So if you're enjoying the podcast, share it. You can also check out our Eat Local shirts. There'll be a link to that in the show notes, and make sure to listen to past episodes. If you're a new listener, there's a whole library of past episodes, and subscribe to the show. That way you're notified when new episodes go live. And with that, I guess, Jake, if you're all good, we'll sign off here, and want to thank everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.